I have been in Switzerland for about a little under a month, and I have one more month to go. It's been a very interesting and eye-opening trip, especially as someone who wants to move abroad at some point. I never considered Switzerland. Switzerland is completely a, what would you say? I don't know. I never dreamed of coming to Switzerland, and then I got a Swiss boyfriend, and so that's just how that works. And there's a few things that I've come to realize that I think are really important for travelers and just for young people in general, because I think we all are at a point where we want to travel, get out the house, spend summers abroad. Everyone's talking about their European summer, which I feel like such a hypocrite, like being like European summer, because I'm in Europe. This is my second European summer. So if you ever hear me talking shit about the girlies talking about a European summer, call me out. Don't let me do that. This is also my second summer being in one place for the whole time that I'm abroad. A lot of people, when they come to Europe, they do interrailing, country hopping, whatever. I don't do that because I think it's just too much. Everyone underestimates the physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion of traveling, and when it comes to interrailing and country hopping, I can't do it. So I've been, I guess, what's considered slow traveling. So number one would be that there is no such thing as a normal, especially as an American. I think a lot of us leave America or leave the United States with the mindset of like our culture being like the standard or neutral or whatever, and then we go to new places and it's like, this is really different from home, this is weird. Here in Switzerland, there are so many things that to me as an American are weird, and I would have never thought that considering it's a Western country. Sometimes I find myself being like a little bit critical, a little bit judgmental of like the way that they do things here. I really can't talk because they have a very like successful, thriving country, and I'm from the United States. But conceptually, like there are some parts of Swiss culture that I cannot wrap my head around as an American. But I've been reminding myself like there is no normal. Like your American normal is no more valid than Swiss normal or Italian normal or French normal, whatever, wherever you're from, wherever you're going. And I think when you go places with that mentality of home is normal, here is foreign and exotic or whatever, different, your mind can never really be opened up to the things that that place can teach you specifically, or even the idea that maybe you actually do like what's going on here better than what's going on at home. Like for instance, driving in Switzerland, they accept these really, really high speeding tickets, and there's speeding cameras everywhere. It's just, they're very strict, and to me, it's like, that's not fair. Like, it's not fair that you get a speeding ticket for going 1 kilometer an hour, which is, I think, less than a mile per hour, over the speed limit, and you get a $40 or 40 franc speeding ticket. And I'm like, as an American, I'm like, how dare they? But here it's just what they do. Like, it's not weird, it's not oppressive to be, you know, expected to follow the rules and to respect your neighbors, respect your community. My point being, your home is not the center of the universe, and that is something both in Switzerland and Italy I had to train my brain out of and stop looking at other cultures as being weird or even just comparing them. Stop comparing very different countries, even in the Western world. Stop comparing very different countries to each other because they're not the same. I know they say we're a lot more similar than we think, but honestly, I think we're a lot more different than we think. I think we think that we're all on the same page about a lot of things, and the reality is that we're not, actually. The second thing that I've come to learn on my travels, my trips, is that the world is not my playground. Every time you are going to a new place, you are entering into someone's home. You're entering into someone's daily life. And it's important to think of it that way. It's important to think of it before you even get on the plane. And it is hard because we see these places on social media and TV, and we don't think about them as being like somebody's home. How could you not want to go to Rome? How could you not want to go to, like, I don't know, Rainbow Mountain in Peru? These places that you see all the time, they start to become places that you're just seeing all the time, and they don't register as being so much more than that. Your adventure is someone else's commute to work. Your crazy night out is some child's bedtime. Like, people live real lives in the places that we love to just run around and act sometimes obnoxious in. I've seen it. I think as travelers and as tourists, we don't recognize the impacts of mass tourism, and we don't think of ourselves as contributing to mass tourism. Last summer when I was in Florence with my mom, oh my goodness, it was packed with people. Everywhere I looked, there was a person, there was someone with a selfie stick. Like, it was just so crowded with tourists. And the entire time I'm there, I'm thinking, I can't imagine living here. If I lived here, I would go nuts. And granted, there's always going to be like the touristy historical part, and I will admit, I didn't go into where people native to Florence probably hang out more. But these people still have to go to work. They still have to use public transportation. They're still affected by the amount of tourism that happens. I can't imagine living with the noise, with the traffic, with the chaos, with the rising cost of living because tourists are coming more and more and more. A lot of it just comes down to respecting where you are and treating someone's country like you're entering into their home, and respecting it as such, and respecting them as such. It's really good for the economy, but it's really bad in a lot of other ways. So be respectful. Experiences are worth so much more than things. I love a good trinket. I love a good little souvenir, little magnet, but it's really not important. Don't buy them. And I'm not saying like don't buy souvenirs, but don't let that take away from actually experiencing the culture of the place that you're in. This doesn't just apply to traveling and being abroad, it also applies to your time spent at home, saving for trips. There's so many people who are like, I don't know how you travel, like, you're always going somewhere, where do you get the money to do it? All of my money goes to my car and these trips and food. I spend a lot of money on food. But that's the thing, like, I have so many passions that I would love to be supplementing with physical items, with buying more things, especially camera stuff. I'm really good at buying a camera. Is having that camera worth more than taking that trip? What's more important to me? The camera or once in a lifetime experiences? I just think the easiest sacrifices you can make are the small objects that we don't even think about buying but add up so quickly. I think in the end, to me personally and other people who value traveling, an experience, a plane ticket, an excursion, honestly even a night out in another country is so much more important than whatever else I'd be buying at home or whatever t-shirt I would get somewhere else. The next thing that I've come to realize while traveling is that traveling is not normal, especially long-term traveling, but really any trip you take requires an insane amount of privilege. Almost every single person that I've met while traveling has either been partially or fully funded, like their lives are funded by their parents or their grandparents. Almost all of them. And to be fair, they are mostly Europeans, and I think Europeans have a very different mindset towards travel than Americans do, just because they're so culturally condensed with each other that it's a lot easier and cheaper for them to travel. But the people that I have met, they're like upper middle class people. And the few people who do have remote jobs that get to do their work from anywhere in the world, like they always talk about on Instagram and YouTube and whatever, even that takes a certain level of privilege because one, usually those are highly skilled careers and you need to have a degree for that. Number two, you have to be able to leave home. There are a lot of people who, even if they had the opportunity to work from anywhere in the world or pack up all their bags and travel, there's responsibilities at home, there's family, there's kids. I think right now, especially being summer and there's so much travel content and everyone wants to travel, it's one of the busiest travel summers I think ever. Like, I think it's breaking records how many Americans are in Europe right now. It makes you think that traveling is normal. A lot of people talk about how traveling has had such an impact on their life and how culturally awakened, spiritually awakened they've become. And that very well may be true in many ways, but I don't think traveling as an activity and as a privilege is any more spiritually, culturally awakening than any other activity that wealthy people get to partake in. Traveling changes you in the same way that going to private school changes you. That being able to play sports all throughout school and maybe even into college changes you. Having access to good healthcare, having access to money and time to be able to indulge in your passions. Traveling is absolutely no different than any other activity. I don't like the idea of a lot of travel influencers and people talking about how traveling has made them so big brained. I promise you, people at home are just as big brained. They just don't have $2,000 on hand to buy a ticket. They have kids at home, they can't pack up everything and leave. I do consider myself to be very privileged. I live at home with family. Most of my bills are covered by my mom and my grandmother and just not me. And having that extra money that would go towards rent or whatever, I get to spend on plane tickets. So that's my privilege. Traveling, especially long term, is not a thing. And YouTube and Instagram and all the people interrailing and country hopping, it makes us think that that is something that everyone does, and it is just not true. And then the last thing that I have been lucky enough to learn while traveling is how important nature and the environment is to so many communities in so many different ways. In 2019, I think it was, I went to Costa Rica, and it was a school trip where the intention was to learn about sustainability and the environment. And like, Costa Rica, I think, has the highest percentage of protected land of any country. There was one point on the bus going between, I don't even know what cities, but we were in the rainforest. And we were passing by all of these homes, and there were so many children playing outside, running, frolicking. The rainforest was their front yard, their backyard, their playground. And they were so happy. I've never seen kids so happy with so little. But there are a lot of kids who don't have toys, and their enrichment comes from their natural environment and school and family. But I was looking at these kids and I was thinking, these are the luckiest kids in the world. I genuinely had that thought. And obviously, I'm sure financially and in terms of opportunities, they could be a lot better off. But seeing their relationship with their environment, a relationship that so many of us don't have, and you need to educate yourself and others on the significance of the natural environment to a lot of these cultures. I would love to think that we will be getting our stuff together as a global community before any of these precious, irreplaceable landscapes disappear. I don't know. What I do know is last summer it was 100 degrees, like 100 degrees plus for like 3 weeks straight. All of Europe was having a huge heat wave and there was no rain. Crops were dying, animals, I don't know if animals were dying, but I don't know. it was really bad. And especially Italy as a place who probably can't, I would need to fact check this, but probably relies very heavily on agriculture, wine included, as an export. Their crops are everything to them. If they lose all of that, what are the farmers going to do? If there's no water, if it's over 100 degrees every day, that's, crops can't thrive in that environment. That's like the desert. I don't know. It's just so crazy, and things are getting worse and worse and worse. And Italy is still the Western world. Doesn't feel like it sometimes, but Italy is still the Western world. And there are so many communities around the world that have already been, like, their local economies have already been like demolished by climate change. We don't hear about it because we hear about it as increase in prices and inflation and all that stuff. But truly, there are a lot of places that have been experiencing droughts for months, if not years. And we don't think about those people. Unfortunately, those are usually the people that have the least impact on the environment. They experience the consequences first. It's so shitty. There's really no other way to say it. To wrap that up, there are some communities where their natural environment is like integral to their culture. And we as travelers need to be doing our best at all times to make sure that we are at least being aware of the impact that we have. The effects of climate change destroy local communities and economies, and that's not good. So we need to save the planet because it's important. So to wrap this up very quickly before my camera dies, I feel like it's gonna die, I don't know why. Traveling has changed my life in so many ways that I am eternally grateful for. But as I get older and visit more places, I feel more responsibility to travel in a way that doesn't harm communities, doesn't exploit people or animals. I see a lot of animal exploitation on your little travel vlogs and stuff. That's all I'll say about that. But traveling is no longer about checking off lists or like being pressured by places I see on Instagram to go to. If I want to go to the place, I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna go because I feel like I need to go or because that's good for Instagram or good for like SEO and YouTube. And I just don't need to do that. And I think now it's kind of my responsibility. If I'm gonna be like aware of my actions and impacts, then I guess that also comes with that. I'm not an anthropologist. I don't study any of this. Is all like just my perception of the world. But there are a lot of places that have significantly changed culturally because of tourism, and not always in good ways, unfortunately. And we don't need to travel at the expense of these communities, because all these places where people love to travel to, like in mass, cater to the tourists at the expense of locals who actually live there. And it creates a dynamic that isn't even enjoyable, because then the locals are like tourists, and then tourists are like, well, I don't understand why they're not nice to us. And it's unnecessary. If tourists, I feel like we're just a little bit more aware of what it feels like to have your home be taken over in many ways. So that is it for today. I hope you liked my little rants. I'm sorry if I ranted at all, but I hope you liked them if I was ranting. The next video will probably be a photography video. I know travel like isn't everyone's thing, but it's my thing, so it's going on there. And I would love to hear what you guys think. I love when you comment on my videos, because I love to, like, I don't know. Number one, I learn a lot when you comment on my videos. Like, you guys are so respectful and kind, and I love being corrected by you guys, because like it's very educational for me. I benefit, maybe you benefit in some way, and I also love to hear other people's opinions. So please comment your travel opinions, controversial or not. Maybe I will publicly talk about the controversial topics with you, I don't know. And I will see you next time.